let's start. Okay, so the first thing is that I want to explain, because in the FEMA, out of all the departments, the banking and finance department is still the only department today, as I speak, which has a 4-year course or an honors course. Okay, so therefore, typically to complete the whole banking and finance, I mean, you're not obliged to do the year 4, but to really complete the whole program, you need to do 4 years. So basically, what is the difference between, apart from having a degree, which is 1 year longer? To give you maybe some perspective, for the other ones, all FEMA courses used to be 4-year honors. A number of years ago, a number of departments started going for cutting the honors year. Essentially what they did, the honors year, they renamed the courses, they changed the codes, and more or less their honors year became the masters. So whatever masters they have, more or less, okay, so I'm generalizing a bit, so it might not be exact for each and every department, and so on, but that's more or less the idea. But as you are aware, now that you have completed your year 1, the year 1 is common to all BCom students, because that year 1 is not a real year 1 university in the traditional sense. And the reason is because in order to get into FEMA, you just need that maths requirement, nothing else. And therefore, in order to teach you most of the topics that we have in the faculty, we need to bring the students to the same level in terms of some basic concepts in economics, mathematics, accounting, and whatsoever. And therefore, the year 1 is really there to bring back all the students, regardless of their backgrounds, to have this minimum amount of knowledge. So obviously, typically, if you are a sixth form student who would have taken A-level accounts, A-level maths, and A-level economics, basically, year 1, you don't really have to work so much, because actually year 1 will probably be maybe a slightly lower level than what you did in the A-levels. Okay, but so therefore, in actual fact, when you are doing and choosing majors where the degree stops at year 3, you are really just having a 2-year degree. Okay, so yes, officially you have 180 CTSs, you'll have a full 3-year degree, but given this 1-year thing that I just mentioned, you will really have only 2-year content of your respective majors. Now, is it a problem? For most programs, if I want to progress to do a master's, it will not be an issue, especially in Malta, obviously. But one should be aware that when you want to apply to do masters abroad, in a number of universities, normally the better quality universities, they will only accept an honors degree. Okay, so if you have 180 CTSs, but it's not an honors degree, they will not deem it acceptable. Okay, so therefore this is one thing that one should keep in mind. So obviously, if you go for to do the major in banking and finance and then complete, because obviously you need to choose 2 majors. Yeah, so it could be that banking and finance is going to be not your main major, but your minor major in combination with your other first preference major, and therefore you will not typically go and complete till the end of the honors. But if you do honors banking and finance, you will be able to apply for all master's programs without any of those problems. Okay. Now, therefore, to build a bit on this, okay, and in order to help you to make the choice, obviously, I'm trying to make you think a bit about what are going to be the challenges for you students in the future. So when I say in the future, because you don't have to think in terms of a degree, in terms of what's going to happen just after I graduate, but a degree you are going to carry it all your life. So let's assume that you will have a minimum 40-year career, okay, till your retirement, okay? So therefore you need to think of, okay, will this degree still be relevant in 20 years time, in 30 years time, in 15 years time, and so on, okay? So what are some of the challenges that you will encounter when it comes to getting jobs in the future? So right now, again, it's a bit difficult to measure this because we are in a period where we have pretty close to full employment. There are more job opportunities than candidates. So candidates are a bit in a very powerful situation. Okay, therefore there are no real issues right now. But what are these going to be? So number one, the number of graduates. So when I say the number here, you see in Malta, the number of births have been going down. So in actual fact, the number of students have also been going down. Okay, I can see it. I've been now involved close to 20 years full-time. Okay, a bit more than part-time, close to 30 years now part-time. And therefore I can see that the cohorts are getting smaller. Okay, especially in the last 10 years, the cohorts got quite smaller, okay, and that is an issue. So obviously the issue is if you have more jobs, or sorry, if you have more candidates than jobs, then you have to fight for the jobs, and therefore maybe the type of degree will start to matter a bit more. But here, what I'm going to say in terms of numbers, it's going to be because you see it's a number of factors together. I will come back to the issue of the numbers in a minute to tell you what is a bit the idea. The second issue is Malta is getting expensive in terms of labor costs. Okay, and this is not me inventing, but me meeting practitioners in the field. I'm talking mainly, I mean, although I think it could be extended to other fields, but I'm talking mainly here about the finance area, okay, the business area, and therefore employers having to pay employees more, which is a good thing for you, right? But given that our sector is very international, some employers will start thinking about locating in jurisdictions which are cheaper. Okay, so you see, Malta was created, so to speak, as an offshoot of Luxembourg. So you see, Luxembourg still exists. It's still very big, much bigger than Malta. Okay, so I'm not saying that Malta financial services are going to disappear, but maybe the amount of jobs related to this sector might go down. So remember, when we had COVID and people started working from home, this got some employers thinking, yeah, so work from home means we can work from everywhere. So maybe I can outsource some jobs or employ people who are not necessarily in Malta. Okay, we are seeing in all sectors employers asking the authorities to allow migrant labor to come in. Okay, so yes, EU nationals are free to come and settle in Malta. So there is absolute freedom of movement, like Maltese can go and work in the whole of the EU now, except the UK freely. But now what we are seeing is people from Asia, Southeast Asia, so Indians and so on, taking a lot of jobs. Yeah, you go to Lidl now, most of the people are coming from Asia. A few years ago, we did not see these Asian people at Lidl. It used to be maybe a lot of them, maybe coming from Central and Eastern Europe, and so on, and maybe before coming from some other countries. Again, when there was the financial crisis, we had a lot of people maybe from Greece, from Spain, and so on, or Mediterranean countries coming Italy, yeah. But so we still have a bit of those, but now we are seeing more and more Asians. Okay, so if these people are willing to do your job at a cheaper price, the employer will not think twice. Robotic process automation. Okay, again, so for those maybe who have never heard about this, this is a firm. There are firms which actually specialize in automating a back office procedure at your office, and someone today is doing this manually. Robotic process automation consists of making a computer program which does a real human being anymore to do this type of task. So you could think of someone, for example, doing a fund valuation, someone, for example, processing invoices, and so on and so forth. Okay, and you can see that all of these taken together means people, employers are having a lot of problem to recruit, and therefore once they have problems to recruit, they will start looking for employees further ashore. They will start to see how can I reduce the demand on employees by automating certain processes. Okay. Another big thing which is yet to come is, you know, that there has been this big reform about international tax harmonization, this 15% tax. Yeah, you know that Malta has this refund system and so on. So you pay effectively around 5% tax and so on. So therefore Malta will have to partially phase this out. Okay, I know this 15% does not apply to all firms and so on, but this is going to have some impact, definitely, on jobs, because you see a lot of the firms, at least in the services sector, I'm not saying all of them, but a big part of those, the dirty little secret is they are here to save on taxes. Okay, so they will never tell you that. They will always tell you, yes, because the climate is fantastic. You are an English-speaking country. You have EU regulation. You have a stable government and whatsoever, efficient people and whatsoever. But they will never tell you that, yes, we like to save on taxes and that's why we are here. Okay. So once that, so therefore, the solution here is for you as employees is to be able to provide work which provides increased value added to the employer, okay, to your customers, and also at the same time do a job which AI, okay, cannot do so easily, okay, and therefore normally that is going into activities which are more highly value added. So therefore, as a graduate, what I want is I need to increase my quality, the quality as a graduate, and therefore how do I do that? Okay, and therefore you see there's only one way. If you want to increase overall your quality as a graduate, you need to increase the time of studies. Okay, so how many ACTSs do you do? Probably do a master's degree and so on. And to a certain extent, the difficulty, okay, of what you are going to study. If it's not challenging, anyone can do it. Okay, so the more challenging, there's going to be an element of self-selection, yeah, and therefore, if you know to do stuff which not a lot of people can do because it's difficult stuff, you are going to be in high demand, and therefore your wage will go up, and so on. Okay. So therefore, this is the question that you have to ask yourself at the end of this exercise: is what kind of person, what kind of student do I want to be? So do I want to go a bit for quality, but it's going to take a bit longer? Or do I want to get into the labor market as quickly as possible? And therefore, I will go for the easiest and quickest route, knowing that, yes, maybe I will have a job maybe of a lower quality, but I don't mind that. So you see, I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong, implying that one is better than the other one. It's a question of choice. You see, it's a bit like if you look at the car market, yes, there is Mercedes, there is Fiat. I'm not saying that Fiat is bad and Mercedes is the best. Some people are perfectly happy with the Fiat. Some people will only consider Mercedes and nothing else. So it's just a question of you have to be in agreement with what you wish, and therefore go for that strategy. Okay. So, but there is room for everything. Okay. So therefore, make that choice. However, remember that normally a degree is something that we only do once in a lifetime. Okay. So therefore, you have to make a choice with which you are going to be happy, and 5 years, in 5 years time, 10 years time, 15 years time, you don't want to look back and say, maybe I went for the easy solution when I should have maybe gone a bit for the more challenging one, and so on. Okay. Second thing, it's much easier to study now when you don't have commitments or very limited commitments, because I know that students today, as I speak, compared to 20 years ago, have many more commitments, and essentially, apart from commitments, sources of distraction. Okay. But I know that probably a lot of you are already working. Maybe some of you are working part-time, and they maintain that. Maybe some of you are working more than 20 hours a week part-time, which I think is far too much, and so on. But you see, when it comes to combining studies with people who are working, and then maybe other family commitments and so on, it gets more and more difficult. So it's much easier to complete the studies while we don't have so many commitments, so that we can focus on that, and then we can move on. Okay. And think not just about the short term, but also a bit about the long term, and this concept of delay gratification. Yeah. So it might maybe take a bit longer to start getting some rewards and maybe getting a full-time job with a full pay, but maybe later on it will prove to have been a much better choice. All right. So having said that, then coming now a bit closer to our area. I think the first question is sometimes the choice, and in fact, maybe for most of you, I would presume that the choice is obvious. Why you want to make a certain, choose a certain major, okay, not necessarily banking and finance, but you want to choose a certain major because the job that you want to do, you need that particular major to do it, and that is the area that essentially interests you. Okay, I know that. So I didn't used to live in Malta when I was a student, and therefore I was not a University of Malta student, and I was not a BCom student. But had I been a BCom student, I know what area I would have selected from the start. Okay, which was obviously the banking and finance area, as you might guess. But I think for most people, if you don't know people in your family or close to you who are working in banking and finance, and therefore you would get a flavor a bit of what is the job or what are potential jobs. I think the best way to approach, and sometimes I think this is how some people get to interested in finance and banking, is they watch certain movies where there is a big element of banking or finance. Here I mentioned some of them, and therefore you might like some of the stories there, and you would say, yes, this is what I like, this is what I would like to do. Although obviously in the films, things will be a bit romanticized and so on, but you will get some kind of gist. So I think definitely I would start a bit there. Then which careers can you follow? So I think one of the things which is attractive in our major is, so this is finance in general. So I would say this would also be valid for accountancy, but the highest wages in Malta are normally in the banking and finance area. Okay, although I would say now a bit with gaming, although maybe with some of our profiles, you might be able to do some jobs in gaming. Okay, but I would say that gaming can be a bit fickle. So we'll see what happens when this tax advantage disappears a bit and so on. How many of those gaming companies are still going to remain here, and so on and so forth. But wages in our sector tend to be the highest. So I think that's quite a good motivating factor to want to complete a major in banking and finance, to earn a decent living, and maybe one which will allow me to have a fairly comfortable life, especially when inflation is going up and prices of real estate and so on are also going up. So in terms of jobs, I mentioned here quite a number of places where you can work. So banks, obviously, investment companies, hedge funds, mutual funds, the accountancy firms, the big four. I mentioned mainly the big four, but not just the big four. Typically, you will have the possibility to go abroad. Some people used to like to go to the UK. Now the UK are closing, have since Brexit have closed down a bit their doors, but there are other places. Although I think nowadays in Malta we find a much bigger variety of jobs. Therefore, even to find some variety, you don't need so much to go abroad. I would say over the last few years, the vast majority of the new additional jobs have been, apart from the ones that I just mentioned, but really a lot of new vacancies related to compliance, and especially to AML and all these things. All right. So if I would say, when there was the financial crisis, the red hot thing was risk management. Now you don't hear anymore about risk management. So it's not that it has completely disappeared, but now kind of we beefed up that section, and that's it. We don't need whoever had to fill up that place take up those positions. These are filled now, that's it. So the big new areas where all firms had to expand substantially was in this AML and so on. Again, the MFSA is still employing people, still expanding the FIU, which from basically a few man band grew up to a very big organization. These positions of MLRO and so on. Okay. Although I presume now that grey listing has been removed, maybe there will be some it's not that it will disappear, because these are part of the EU directives, but the emphasis on this area, and especially to show results to the FATF and so on, all these inspections and catching a bit the bad guys, maybe the intensity of these inspections and so on will now slow down a bit, and therefore maybe the panic of institutions to put in place all these regulatory and compliance people in place might slow down a bit. Okay, so there is always a bit this phenomena of fashion in finance. There are some hot jobs, and then for a while, and then they calm down. Okay, but there is still substantial demand. So something also to keep in mind is that the MFSA normally, in order to authorize people to exercise certain jobs, they will need certain qualifications, okay, and not any qualifications. So it's not like they need a university degree. No, they will say you need a banking and finance degree. So it doesn't have to be from University of Malta, but if you want to do this job, you need a banking and finance or similar type of qualification. So if you have marketing, you might not be able to do that job, and so on. And here you see I provide a link where the MFSA provide a list of what they accept in terms of what type of jobs and so on. Okay, so this is something that is there and that will stay there and so on. So it's not like the warrant of the accountant, okay, but it's the closest thing to being some kind of warrant. In other words, your degree is a door to certain jobs that not people can do with any type of degree. So what do we learn? Okay, well, basically we cover all the topics that are needed in our area. So corporate finance, investments, regulation, banking, international banking, some technical courses, Financial Times series, in order to analyze data. We have loads of data, trading or buying and selling shares, and how we do that. How do financial markets behave? How do we manage portfolios? How do we assemble portfolios on behalf of investments, risk management, and so on. Okay, we have some innovative courses as well. There are cryptocurrencies, for example, obviously anti-money laundering, and all these aspects are all covered there. So what will make you more likely to succeed in our area? So as we said, BCom to get in, you need that fairly basic requirement in mathematics. Now, obviously, finance is still a numbers area. So you need numbers. There are computations to do. So therefore, being comfortable with numbers and with basic mathematics, yeah. So we don't need sophisticated maths, at least at undergraduate level. Okay. But that will make it easier for you to understand and to do the quantitative part of the story. English, a lot of the material is in English, most of it. Okay, so having a good mastery of English is good. Again, when you work, probably if you are working in an international environment, your language will be English rather than Maltese. I think you need to keep updated, because the area is changing all the time. Okay, as we said, AML has been around for 25 years or close to 30 years. I remember when I started as an employee of the bank, Malta had just implemented the first version of the AML directive. But at that time, it was not so important. Now it's kind of very central to the businesses of most financial firms. As I said, when there was the financial crisis, risk management was all the rage, and so on and so forth. Okay, cryptocurrencies, which have been coming and going. Okay, again, you see a few years ago when the Bitcoin peaked at around $20,000 a few years ago, everyone wanted to go into blockchain and crypto. Now these topics have a bit died again, and so on and so forth. So you see that you need to be a bit flexible there. We tend to use some specific softwares to do regression analysis and so on. So this is mainly for certain courses and for the thesis, although it's not mandatory for to do the thesis. You can do some other methods as well. But we have some specific programs that we use, like Thomson Reuters, to analyze data and so on and so forth. So you'll get courses to teach you how to make use of that, and so on. So taking maybe banking and finance as a secondary major. So because obviously you need to choose two majors. So I think here my argument would be, why not? I think that as you can see in my slide, the concept of financialization of the economy means that basically finance is what makes the world go round. As you could see, when there was the coronavirus pandemic, it wasn't until the authorities decided to intervene in the financial markets to provide liquidity and provide a number of instruments in order to finance the various schemes that were put in place. If you remember, wage subsidy scheme and so on, that the economy started to improve. So we see, I think at the end of the day, if you don't understand finance, you are going to have a very hard time to understand what happens in general in the real world. So therefore, I think it's a good complement to try to get a clue about understanding these phenomena, because it will, on average, make you a better manager, even if you are not operating in a financial firm, or operating even in a financial capacity. So even if I am working in marketing, or HR and so on, I need to understand a bit about these dynamics of finance. Okay, and I think, yeah, that's all. So any questions? Okay.
So thank you very much, Dr. Saban, for joining. And
yes, I think there is one question. So does CFA count as a banking and finance degree for Maltese jobs? So, so number one, CFA is completely outside of the university. Okay, so therefore CFA is, you need to do it on your own. It's self-study. It takes quite a number of years to do it. And I would say, so if someone told me, I'm not going to study university, I'm going to do CFA, I say, why not? Most of the courses that we do, so covering honors, yeah, so till the end of the 4th year, you cover more or less, you are duplicating a big part of CFA, not all, because a bit of CFA is about these US rules and so on. But you are more or less getting there. Now, the difference with CFA is that, number one, CFA is not like university in the sense of when you do an exam, if you get 45, you pass, that's it. Okay. The pass mark at CFA is, imagine if I'm going to invent a bit the numbers, but to give you an idea, if you have 100 students who take the exam, they will say, we will only pass roughly 40%, between 30 to 40%, regardless of the marks. So therefore, you see, they establish, obviously, they look at the performance of all the students, and they put a bar. So there is a very high failure rate, in the sense of maybe you could have had 60 out of 100 and you are still not accepted. Okay, so therefore there is no such a thing as a pass mark. Yeah, and typically in every session they more or less accept only 30 to 40%. So it's extremely selective, because you see, you have to be amongst those top 30 or 40% in any given cohort who takes the exam. Okay, so therefore I would say, on average, if I would have, let's say, out of my honors year students taking the CFA, I would say maybe not more than 20% would make it. Okay, and then again, that is a very rough estimate, because again, CFA, you see, is you need to prepare quite a long time. It's quite a big exam, so therefore, if you don't do proper preparation, definitely you will not make it. Okay, so to give you an idea, maybe even if I try tomorrow without preparation tomorrow to go and do the exam, I will probably almost surely not pass. Okay, because I would have to train a bit and to be fast enough, and so on and so forth. And especially there are these very specific US rules and so on, which obviously in Malta we don't study, because we are applying EU rules and so on, although they tend to be a bit a mirror image, you know. So there is AML in the USA, but they might call this, I don't know, rule 5F or 6, and therefore if you don't know these technical names, you don't know what they're talking about. But it's a separate process. Okay, but definitely I think if you want to you want to do CFA, and certain jobs they accept CFA, so there again, traditionally for certain jobs they will CFA is even more prestigious than a master's to a certain extent, because as I said, because of this element of selection, but it's not for everyone. Okay, other questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Saban. If anyone has any more questions, you can email them to us and we can pass them on to you.
I am Dr. Lauren Edlul and I lead the Department of Accountancy, as some of you might be aware. And I've been at the head of the department since last October, so this is going to be the second year for me. But obviously I've been lecturing at the university for the past 20 years. Could I ask you perhaps those who feel comfortable to switch on your cameras, so at least we'll be able to put a face to a name, please? We are a small group, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so today I am going to speak a bit about the course, and especially if you choose accountancy as your major. I am assuming that those of you who are here have completed their first year, right, Mireille? Their BCom first year. Hi. Mireille seems to be frozen. Yasmin, can you confirm, please? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So the audience here have completed your BCom first year, and I am assuming that the people who are attending today have accountancy, have their accountancy A level, and they have been following the accountancy subjects in the first year ACCA 2112 and 2113, correct? Yes, okay. So all of you here have the potential now to choose accountancy as one of your majors. So let's start off. Just a bit of background about our department, the mission of our department, for those of you who are not aware of our mission. It is to develop professional accountants to lead high-performing businesses. So that is our mission, that is our aim, and that is what we strive to achieve with you in the coming 4 years. Okay, so how is the accountancy course divided? This is just a refresher. Most of you already know how the accountancy course is divided. We have the Bachelor of Commerce, which is spread over 3 years, and you have already completed your first year. Now, in summer, you're going to choose 2 areas of specialization. And if you want to continue and graduate eventually with the master in accountancy and become an accountant, this summer you have to choose accountancy as one of your areas of specialization. Okay, and you will be studying accountancy obviously during your second year and third year in the Bachelor of Commerce, and then following successful completion of the Bachelor of Commerce, and provided you achieve an average of 65%, you can proceed to choose to continue studying the Master in Accountancy, which spans over 2 years. Now, in addition to accountancy, so if you want to become an accountant, you need to choose accountancy as one of your majors. In addition to accountancy, there are 6 other areas of specialization, which my colleagues will speak to you about, and I'm assuming today and tomorrow as well. You've already met the head of the Banking and Finance, Dr. Suban, and now you will be meeting the other heads. Now, on this slide, I have set out a summary of the subjects that you will be covering during the whole 5 years. So the first year, which you have already covered, and the upcoming 4 years. And these are the many subjects which are contained in the course. Now, let's start with the first one, financial accounting and reporting. Financial accounting and reporting, it spans over the whole 5 years. Obviously, we are talking about accounting, and if we're going to be future accountants, we need to compile financial reports and accounts, and therefore that is a very important and main subject in our course. Then there is cost and management accounting. You have already had some exposure to this during your A-level. And cost and management accounting, you will start off with this subject in the second year, and it will be studied up till your fourth year. Okay, so the 2 years remaining in the Bachelor of Commerce, and then the first year in the accountancy, you will also be covering cost and management accounting. Auditing, we study auditing in the third year and in the fourth year. Financial management or corporate finance, taxation, law. Now, law, we have various branches of different branches of law. So you're going to be covering civil law, commercial law, company law, and financial services legislation. And the studying of law will span from year 2 of the BCom to the first year of the Master in Accountancy. In the 5th year of the last year of the course, there are a number of elective subjects which you can choose, including forensic accounting, for example, international accounting, international tax, etc., etc. I will be speaking about the dissertation shortly. There are other units, study units, which you cover, such as contemporary issues. Contemporary issues would include current subjects, okay, which we think that these are relevant and hot subjects in the profession at that moment. Research issues, so here we prepare you to how to write a proposal, a dissertation, how to use the correct references, etc., etc. Ethics and corporate governance, and risk management. And then obviously there is the other discipline, the other major that you will be choosing, which you have already studied some aspects of the different subjects in the first year, and now depending on which area you're going to choose with accountancy, you will be focusing on that as well in your second and third year of the BCom. Now, if you want to go into a little bit more detail about the subjects that I have just mentioned and exactly what you will be covering for each study unit, and who will be lecturing the study unit, and how it is going to be assessed, whether it's going to be assessed via an exam, an assignment, a presentation, etc. I have listed 2 links on the next slide. So the first link is the program description of the Bachelor of Commerce. And here you have from the first year to the third year. For you, obviously, the second and the third year are relevant. And then there is another link for the Master in Accountancy program. If I had to click on the first link, for example, okay, can you see the program description, please? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So here, year 1, you've already covered. Let's say you want to check out the subjects, the study units that you will be covering in years 2 and 3 of the BCom. What you can do, either follow that link, or you can type in Google, you will find it immediately, Bachelor of Commerce Accountancy. And for example, in semester 1 of year 2, you're going to be covering civil law for accountants. If you want to know exactly what the civil law for accountants entails, who is lecturing it, how is it assessed, you just follow the link and you have it over here. Can you see civil law for accountants once I went to this link? Yes? Okay, so civil law for accountants, 4 credits. You have the syllabus and the study unit outline, the main reading list, and the assessment. So here we have an exam of 2 hours and the lecturer, Mr. Patrick Galla. So for every study unit, you can actually look in detail in the subjects, accounting, recognition, and measurement, okay? And then you have some choices that you need to make depending on the other major that you have chosen. Yeah, again, semester 2, these are the compulsory units: commercial law, costing principles for management accounting applications. This is the cost and management accounting subject that I mentioned on the previous slide. And then you have year 3, the compulsory units: principles of auditing, specialized accounting. For each and every one, you have an indication of what you will be covering. Again, if I had to go now to the Master in Accountancy, you can as well Google Master in Accountancy, University of Malta, and this comes up. You have year 1, auditing, financial reporting, taxation. These are the compulsory units. In semester 1, other compulsory units: advanced management accounting, financial services law, research issues, etc. Okay, and each one of these, again, you can go to the link and learn in detail what you will be covering. What I would like to mention as well, if we had to go back to this course content overview that I have on the slide, an important part of the master's is the dissertation. And the dissertation, as you may know, every year you have to complete 60 ACTS, 60 credits each year of the course. The dissertation contains 30 credits. So it is a very important part of the course. And in the first year of the Master in Accountancy here, you will submit a proposal, you will have someone guiding you to help you choose the title, to ensure that the title is feasible, etc., etc. And then you will write up, do the research, carry out interviews or distribute questionnaires depending on the subject that you have chosen, and you write up a dissertation of around 15 to 20,000 words. So this is an important part of the Master in Accountancy course. Okay, I'm going to continue. I'm going to cover all the slides and then we have ample time for your questions. Okay. Now, a bit about the department. I'm sure some of you are already aware of this, but it's good to mention some things here. So it is, the accountancy department is the largest department in the FEMA, and we have around a staff complement of around 60 people. We have 10 academics. I have listed them in a slide, which you can see shortly. And we have 50 visiting lecturers from the profession and from the industry. So as you can appreciate, we have a mix of both academics, but also practitioners, people on the ground who have the experience in the industry, in the profession, and who can guide you accordingly. So in our course, this is very important because we have a mix of the theoretical side, which is important to provide you with a sound knowledge base of the subjects that you will then use during the course of your profession and in your employment. But we also have Although most of the academics have professional experience, if I had to speak of myself, I spent 17 years with a Big Four accounting firm. So we are not just academics who do not have any experience. Most of us have experience, but to add to that, we have around 50 visiting lecturers who actually work in the industry full-time or in the profession, and they bring a wealth of knowledge which you can obviously make the most of. So what I encourage you here is to make the most of the experience being offered by our lecturers. So please attend the lectures and participate in the lectures, ask questions, discuss, and do not just sit back, take notes, or worse, some of you might not attend lectures because of work and just bring the notes from their colleagues. No, please make the most of it. You are full-time students. Try to make the most of these years because they will not come back. Okay, let me talk a bit about you studying accountancy at university. You know that there are other routes to study accountancy. So why do we study accountancy at university rather than work on a full-time basis and take accountancy part-time? Number one, although you are full-time students, you will still be offered work experience opportunities, so you are not going to be missing out on the work experience part. Remember, you have your whole lives to work, so it is good for you to enjoy university life and to focus on your studies, to read books, because if you're working full-time and you are studying part-time, believe me, you won't have time to go in depth and to analyze books, to ask questions, to read academic articles, to deepen your knowledge. I've been there when I did my postgraduate. I was working full-time, and I know how difficult that is because you need to study during the weekends, unless you have to go to the office because of some deadlines, and you need to study after 6 in the evening. No, you are full-time students. You can make the most of your time, study in the morning when you're fresh, ask questions, attend lectures, but also, as I've listed on this slide, during your university life, you're going to build networks. You're going to acquire important soft skills, communication skills, presentation skills, etc., etc. What do I mean by building networks? Down the line, when you are 40 years old or 45 years old and you have colleagues working in the profession, in the industry, and you need to liaise with them for some reason, for a professional reason, some of these people would have been in the university course with you. And therefore, these networks that you build now, you are going to bank on them later on. So it is important to be present on campus, to meet with your friends, to study. And yes, if you have the opportunity to gather some work experience, to work in summer, or perhaps to work a few hours also during winter, I do not discourage that. But please, do not work full-time. I've had cases, and that's why I am emphasizing this. I've had cases in the past year or so where people were working full-time and then they did not have time to dedicate to the dissertation. Remember, as I told you, the dissertation and the other subjects contain and carry a significant amount of credits which you need to obtain as well. Okay, a bit about the warrant. This is important. And once we finish university, or also whilst studying at university, as I told you, we can work a little bit, but we reach a good balance, okay, between work and studies and our studies. Once you obtain your degree, you need to practice in accountancy for an aggregate period of 3 years in order to obtain the warrant. Okay? At least 1 year's experience has to be gained after obtaining your academic qualifications. What does this mean? It means that 2 years out of the 3, you can gain that experience whilst you are studying. So when you are working during the summer months, or if you are working 2 days or 2 afternoons a week, as long as you are working in accounting, not doing filing or not making coffee for your boss, you have to be actually working in accountancy. That work experience counts towards the warrant, okay, towards the 3 years. But at least 1 year has to be obtained after you get the degree. So you can't obtain the full 3 years work experience while studying. Is this clear? Okay. The warrant is issued by the Minister for Finance on the advice of the Accountancy Board. Job opportunities. Why do I encourage you to go for accountancy? Job opportunities, as some of you, I'm sure, have already experienced, because some of you already have jobs or summer jobs, are limitless, basically. The sky is the limit. And in our profession at the moment, in Malta and even in other countries, we have a deficit of accountants. So finding a job, as long as you work and you are committed, is not going to be hard. And as I told you, I'm sure most of you already have jobs. And where can you work? There are various opportunities. So you can work, the most obvious, in an accounting firm. In an accounting firm, there are different functions. You can work in accounting, in auditing, in advisory, in taxation, etc., etc. Apart from the accounting firms, you can work as an accounting or a financial controller within a company across various industries. So pharmaceutical, anything, okay, manufacturing industries, you name it, you have it. Financial services, it is a big sector in Malta, as you know, so you can work within a bank, in an insurance company, gaming, at the regulator, so you can work at the MFSA, at the central bank, at the gaming authority, all the regulators. And the public sector, there are various opportunities, and there are they are really seeking to recruit accountants in the public sector. So you can work in the IAID, Internal Audit and Investigations Directorate, the Tax Compliance Unit, all the government ministries, all the public corporations. So the opportunities are limitless. And a lot of accountancy jobs, as we have seen during the pandemic, are very flexible. They offer job flexibility and the opportunity to telework. So for most of us, the pandemic did not make any difference at all, because we worked more than ever before. We were stuck at home and we could work. We just needed a computer and basically internet facilities, and all the work was carried out. So even for audit firms, even for accountants, financial controllers. So basically our jobs, our profession, we have that opportunity even for those people who in the future will have a family and need some flexibility to telework. They have that opportunity as well. These are the full-time or the academic staff. Okay, there are 10 people here. And these are our administrative staff, Miss Paula Kutayar and Miss Romina Mallia. So any administrative issues, these are the people to contact. So I'm going to stop here, but obviously I am open to any questions and any comments and anything that you would like to ask or put forward at this stage.
So just to clarify, for the warrant, when do the 2 years start counting, please?
When you start working, so if at the moment you are studying, but you are working 2 afternoons during the winter and you've worked throughout the summer, as long as the work that you are given is in the practice of accountancy, you are actually doing accounting work, okay? You should keep timesheets and the log of the work you're doing, because eventually when you apply to the accountancy board, you will have to provide that proof to the accountancy board. So even now, if you are working, but you are working in accountancies, as I told you, if you are doing administrative work, billing, filing, or whatever, that does not count, okay? But once you start doing accountancy work, that counts as part of the work experience that you need for your warrant.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
If anyone has any questions, they can email them to us and we can forward them to you if you don't mind.
Yes.
I would like to thank you once again very much for your time and for finding time out of your busy schedule to conduct this talk. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck to everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Problems. So I will give you a short presentation about the economics department. I have a presentation which I will share with you. Can you see the presentation, please? So as you are seeing here, I am Carl Camilleri. I am the current head of department for economics. I've been head of department for the last almost 1 year now. I've been at the department for the last eight years as a full-time lecturer. But from last October, I have taken over the post of head of department from Professor Philip von Brockdorf, who was the previous head. So I will give you a very brief overview of the department. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to either stop me or to send an email or to come over to university, because I am usually here, and you can come with your questions and you can ask, and we can proceed accordingly. So to start, I will give you a very brief introduction of what is economics. I have assumed that most of you have somehow or some knowledge of the subject, either through the course which you followed in your first year, or else maybe through other courses which you have done in either in your sixth form or maybe even before. Okay. So first, a little bit on the sector. Some information on career options, which obviously most of you would aspire to achieve once you finish your degree. Some points on skills and aptitudes, which we usually consider to be necessary or important for any student to be successful within this department, within the economics department. How you progress over the years, and I also have some slides from some testimonials with some previous students which we had within the department. So why should we study, or why should you study economics? These are again some points which come to mind, because it helps us understand the world. hopefully, when you do a course in economics, you are in a better position to understand what's happening around you. Okay, most of the issues which we discuss in our everyday lives, be it inflation, be it the rise in prices, be it the rise in property prices, being any issues which are usually topical in the news, could be somehow better understood if we have some knowledge of economics. And this is one of the main advantages which you would have if you decide to study or to continue with your studies in economics. Okay, economics helps to bridge many fields. Okay, so if you are interested in dealing with social policy, for example, if you have some tools in economics, your policy tools or your ideas to improve in policy will usually be better if you have some knowledge of economics. Okay, if you put all your policies into the context of, for example, the budget financial system, okay, the deficit, the debt, etc. Economics is a very prestigious social science, and it is a science which is widely respected out there. Okay, so if you have a degree in economics, you are considered to be or to have knowledge which you could use in your work, in your everyday life, etc. In fact, usually our students do get very good jobs when they have a degree in economics. Okay, be it just a BCom degree with a major in economics, even more if you manage to move further in your studies, as I will explain, with a master's degree. Okay, most of our students, previous students, do have good jobs. Okay, I will give you some examples as we go along. And economics is, if you are in economics, you will have that extra edge to shape the world. Okay, let's start from first shaping maybe our society, maybe the company which you are working with, but then your ideas could be spread out not only to the company, not only to the society where you are living in, but also maybe even further to the world. So as most of you would appreciate or would already know, economics is the study of decisions which we take on a number of main issues, mainly what we consume, okay, what we produce, and how we do all this. Okay, so the policy which is actually in place in terms of our consumption, how we produce items. Economics is about the study of resource use. Okay, so we are trying to put into practice the best possible ways which would make us achieve the best out of the resources which we have. Okay, those resources being physical, okay, being a human capital, being actually machinery, and any other type of resource which we can have at our disposal. Okay, but this is what economics is all about. Okay, how to best put into use the resources which are available from society, basically. Here I list a number of areas how we usually divide the subject. Okay, and these are usually areas which you might be interested in, one of them, two of these areas, or maybe even more. Okay, so just to give some examples here, you could be interested in, for example, area I, which is health, education, and welfare. Okay, so your economic tools, the tools which we learn in microeconomics, could be applied to healthcare. Okay, how should we put in place the resource which we have within a healthcare sector? Okay, should we add more nurses? Should we add more doctors? What is the output when we add more resources? Okay, how should we organize the resources in a better way to get more output out of the inputs which we are putting into the system? So that's health. This could be applied to education. It could be applied to any area within the welfare economic sphere. Okay, so issues related to pensions. How should we reform a pension system to make it better in terms of adequacy, in terms of sustainability over the long-term period? You could be interested in areas related to, for example, labor and demographic economics. Okay, so how we deal with gender issues and gender related to pay, for example. How do we deal with immigration? Okay, what is the impact on the labor market as a result of more or less immigrants? What type of skills do we need as a society, as an economy? Okay, so that we can produce the output of this system, and in many other areas, international economics, financial economics. If you are interested in more inclined into mathematical type of work, so there we go into what is called econometrics, okay, which is an area which I work a lot in. But there are a number of sectors. So these are different sectors which are usually what we call gel codes. Okay, these are the codes which we find in journal articles with the various areas in economics. Okay, some points on possible careers, mostly again with the knowledge which we have of previous students and where they are actually working after finishing a degree in economics. Okay, so you can actually focus on all those jobs within the public sector. Okay, so this might be something which you obviously hear from previous students, that they are currently working at the central bank, for example, that they are currently working at the economic policy department within the Ministry of Finance, and that they are working at the MCCAA, okay, which is the government agency for competition, the National Statistics Office. So, okay, these are all institutions which are within the public sector, which usually need people who actually have a background in economics. Okay, and if you have such a degree, you are usually accepted within such institutions very, very easily here. This is a case where most probably demand is more than supply. Okay, if we can talk in terms of economics here. So there is a big demand for students who actually have a degree in economics within each of these institutions. Okay, there are a number of other institutions which are actually not purely public sector. Okay, so for example, the Energy and the Water Agency, okay, the Environment Agency, Health Agency, the Education. So all these are all areas where students who have a degree in economics are usually working. Okay, we can also then look at the private sector. So in the private sector, again, there is a big demand for students who have a degree in economics. So we can mention any of the main consultancy firms here who undertake a lot of work in terms of, for example, what are called cost-benefit analysis, evaluation of projects. Okay, and we also have students who actually work in data analysis, for example, within the gaming industry, within banks. Okay, within the local banks which we currently have, which both or all the banks which we have attracts or are an attraction for our students. Okay, we also have students who work within the voluntary sector. Okay, within the NGOs, different NGOs, even within a number of associations or bodies, like for example the Chamber of Commerce, like the MCSD, like the Malta Financial Services Authority, okay, the MFSA, the Malta Standards Authority, Jobs Plus. So all these other bodies usually require people with a degree in economics, or else if you have a degree in economics, usually you are at an advantage when you apply for such posts and obviously for such jobs. I also think about a number of students who are currently working, past students who are currently working with international bodies. Okay, so we have students who are currently working within the European Commission in Brussels, for example. Most of these are either working with the institution or else they are with the Maltese government, but they are being posted in Brussels, for example. Okay, I know of students who are currently working at the United Nations headquarters, for example, or with foreign banks. Recently, I had a discussion with a student who is currently working, and he has been there for 7 years at the European Central Bank, okay, in Frankfurt. We have also students who are currently working with the Bank of England in the UK. Okay, so there is a whole range of opportunities out there which you could easily tap if you have this extra skill, which is the degree which you end up with once you finish your degree with the economics department. Okay, we have also students who end up in the teaching sector. Okay, so for example, in my case, I spent 10 years working with the Ministry of Finance at the Economic Policy Department. Okay, mostly related to work doing forecasts, building economic models. I had then now shifted to the university, which is mainly a teaching institution here. So we have a number of lecturers in the department who are actually, or who before used to work with a number of institutions, which I have just mentioned here. Okay, some of the lecturers which we have here have also been lecturers in foreign universities. Okay, so they have been based abroad, but they have now decided to return back, and some of them are working actually with us at the department. I also list media and journalism here because this could be of interest to some of you. There is a big opportunity out there to work in media and journalism, which is related to purely economic writing, basically. Okay, so you would be dealing with the business section of the newspaper, for example. Could it be online or could it be printed? But there is a whole list of jobs which you could perform within this area if you have a degree in economics, if you have a background in economics. Okay? So these are just some examples. Again, most of you would have most probably already started to get some form of idea about these different positions, but there is work out there. There is a big demand out there for people who actually have a degree in economics. Okay. I list here some skills, some aptitudes which are usually considered important if you want to work to have a degree with this department. Okay, so for example, if you are good with research, because this is a lot of work which we do here is related to research work, research in policy, for example. You are able to synthesize and analyze complex information. Okay, you are interested in policy implementation. So what should I do if I want to increase or to change this type of behavior from the people? Okay, if there is some element of consumption which is happening out there, which I would like to adjust, what economic tools could I use to adjust that behavior? Okay, so these are all skills. If you are good with numbers, for example, if you enjoy making forecasts. So these are some of the skills which we consider important for students to actually have a degree, or those who are aiming to pursue a degree in economics. Okay, something which is obviously of interest here is whether you are prepared to travel, because most of the jobs related to economics would somehow end up with either you needing to travel once a month, twice a month. It depends on the job which you actually take. Okay, so all these are, as I said, small aptitudes or particular aptitudes which I consider important for our students when they are actually working on their degree with the economics department. Okay, most of these skills you already have these, so we will help you to develop your skills in report writing, for example. We'll give you more tools which will enable you to work with forecasts, okay, to produce forecasts. But that necessary skill, which is usually there, most of you will already have this in place. This is just a very brief overview of the progression which you could look at once you start your degree here. So most of you are already have covered the first stage of this progression, and most of you are at the stage whether you decide or not to take your BCom economics major major degree. Okay, so you are at the point where you are deciding which majors you are actually going to select. If you decide to go for economics, then that gives you the opportunity after your third year, because we have changed this from last year, that after your third year, you now can go directly into an MSc in economics with the department. Okay, so we offer a full-time 1-year course, which will lead to an MSc in economics. Okay, and that you could apply for once you finish your BCom degree, and one of your areas would be economics mainly. Okay, those of you who actually end their MSc and want to further their studies, you can always go on the right-hand side of this route, and you decide to do, for example, a PhD in economics. Okay, we also offer this possibility for candidates within the department. So currently we have 2 students who are part-time doing their PhD with the department, and there are plans to increase the number of students who are actually offered this possibility within the department. Okay, so you will have your supervisor, who is actually a member of staff, full-time member of staff within the department. Okay, those of you who go on the left-hand side then would decide to start their work, which does not mean that you can never return back to your PhD studies, for example. Okay, but these are the routes which could take you if you actually decide to start your BCom with a major subject being economics. Okay. I list here some topics which have been actually dissertation topics of some of our previous students. Okay, and I do this here because this gives you some flavor of the topics which you would discuss, which you would focus on within the course. Okay, so for example, how can we control inflation, which today is most probably the topic which everybody speaks about. Okay, in the healthcare sector, we discuss, for example, whether MRIs are cost effective. Okay, what are the economic effects of divorce? Is there a property bubble? How can we control government debt? Does money make people happy? Okay, so this is a new area within the economics department which we are developing, which is related to the well-being here of the individual. Okay, how large is the underground economy? How can we stimulate the film industry in Malta? What are the costs and the benefits of road widening? Okay, should we reclaim land? We evaluate the effectiveness of a new drug to treat cancer, for example. So these are all areas. And analysis of the determinants of health inequality. Okay, why is it that different people receive different levels of healthcare, for example? Does your income level affect your health? They are all topics which we could, and most of the students which we currently have actually chosen some of these areas to develop in their dissertations. You will do a dissertation with the department if you decide to go for an MSc, for a master's course. Okay, I will explain this in a minute. But there is a whole set list here of topics. I have some more slides with a number of areas just to help you to get some flavor of the different topics which we discuss. Okay, so determinants of wage distribution in Malta, for example. The effect of demographic change on economic growth. What is the implication of aging on society? Okay, impact of culture on well-being. Does trust in government influence well-being? Okay, and as I said, there is a whole list which never ends of topics which you could actually decide to follow later on when you are following the master's course. But usually students come up with their own topics, and most of the topics are very much related to current affairs which are happening during that particular year. Okay, so if we are currently focusing on issues of inflation, for example, usually top students would come up with topics which are related to prices, how to control prices, what we should do, etc. Okay, but these are some of the areas here, just to give you an idea of the broadness of the possibilities which are available for you to focus on. So this is the program which you would be following if you decide to go into your to choose economics as a major subject. Okay, so year one is something which you have already gone through. In year two, we have a number of topics which now actually start to go deeper into economics. Okay, so we will have a course in intermediate micro and intermediate macro, which builds on the material which you covered in your first year. Then we will start to introduce econometrics. Okay, in fact, you will have a course in your second year and also another course in your third year, which is purely related to econometrics. Then we have topics related to public sector. So mainly here we focus on taxation and we focus on government expenditure. We have a course in mathematical economics, which is there to help you with the mathematical foundations for the different courses which you will follow. And then there is a whole set of other courses like political economy, economics of social policy, the economics of small states, creativity and innovation, international economics, okay, which is mostly trade economics, which you cover in the second year of the course. In the third year, again, we have a whole set of topics like monetary economics. Then you have two topics, one is applied micro and one is applied macro. Okay, so these are two practical courses which build on the material, the theory which you do in intermediate micro and intermediate macro. We have research methods, okay, another course in econometrics. We have a course in environmental policy and a course in finance, a course in monetary policy. So these are some of the topics which you will cover in your third year of the course. Okay, if you decide to follow an MSc in economics, so you would do that after your third year. The topics which we cover in the MSc are listed there. So you have more advanced micro and macro. Okay, another course in mathematics, obviously with a focus on economics here. Research methods, theory and practice. This is a course which helps you to come up with a research proposal for your dissertation. It would give you the necessary information on the methods to use, the data to use, where you find the data, how to collect the data, etc. And then there is another course in econometrics in your master's. This might be a bit too far for most of you here, okay, because it is 3 years from, or 2 years from today. But it's good to have an idea of where you can actually, what you can actually do once you finish your third year course. This master's course, as I said, is a full year, 1 year full-time course. Okay, so you will have lectures full-time at the university with a dissertation which you need to prepare during the summer months, which you usually handle in September. Okay, and as I said, there are a number of other topics there which are of interest, again depending on your needs. What I have here is another set of, but this is not relevant to you because from next year we are changing the format for new students who are getting into the course, so this doesn't apply. I have also added here some information on the full-time lecturers which we have at the department. Okay, and this is here to give you some flavor of the research interests of the people who you will find here to help you in your course. Okay, so if I just speak about myself there, my main areas of research or my main lecturing is in econometrics, so I mostly teach econometrics here, but I am involved a lot in health economics. So I usually give lectures in health economics, mainly within the course which we have in the masters, which is related to the aging of populations. Okay, so this will be involved with evaluating healthcare programs, dealing with efficiency and effectiveness of healthcare programs, health and economic development, the impact of COVID-19, for example, on the healthcare system, issues related to mental health, impact of mental health on health inequality. So these are all areas which I usually cover. And this is important because those of you who would end up doing a master's course here will usually find an area which is of interest, which they decide to develop in their dissertation. So this gives you a very broad background to the different areas which you can study, because you will find someone here who would be helping you in your work once you are progressing with your dissertation. Okay? So we have basically here currently we have 7 full-time lecturers at the university. We have a set of other or a number of other lecturers who are actually offering part-time services to the department. But obviously these are the main people who you usually find here to help you throughout your course. Okay. I also have some testimonials from previous students. We try to actually engage with our previous students. Both students here, in this case, Glenn, is actually working with the department right now. He is one of our research officers. Glenn followed his degree here. He did a master's course in the UK. But now he is working with one of our full-time lecturers as a researcher. And I have also some information from Gilmore Camilleri, who is currently doing his PhD with the department. Okay, so he did his honors degree in economics here. He did his master's abroad, but he is now working on his PhD with the department. So this is just to give you some ideas of where you could end up once you finish your course with the department. I think that is all from my end. You have some details here at the end. My contact details, phone number. There is also a Facebook page of the department which you can access. We usually there include quite a lot of information on the department, information on careers, jobs which are available, because most institutions in Malta usually come to the department and ask for help in actually recruiting students, for example. So we actually use the Facebook page as a point of information even for our students. Okay, we also have a page for previous students where we try to keep contact with them. These are the details mainly. If anyone is interested and would need more information, as I said, I am usually here available at the department. We are on the 3rd floor of the FEMA building. And I will usually try to help you as much as possible with your questions, with any queries which you would have, with any discussion which you would like to make to maybe help you sort out this decision of what to choose, because this is something which is usually difficult. But hopefully, after you hear all these pieces of information, you would be in a better position to make a decision. Currently, we have quite a good number of students who are following economics. Currently, we have a master's course with around 30 students who are following our master's degree. Over the last few years, usually the group of students which choose economics as their major is of around 40 or 50 students. Okay, so the size of the group will usually be of that size, and then obviously after your 3rd year you need to decide what to do. But this year we have a master's group which is quite large, of 30 students. Okay, I really do not know what will happen next year, but I already had some meetings with our 3rd year students, and there seems to be a good group of students who are interested in following our master's course. Okay. If there are any questions or comments or any queries which you would like to make, let me stop sharing this presentation. Please feel free to ask questions. Again, let me just maybe add one more thing. Most of the courses are now being followed physically at university. So as you all know, maybe in your first year, you were still following some courses online, but in your second year, most of the courses now have shifted back to, let's call it the old system, where you come here, you follow lectures, which I consider to be very important. Okay, so following class is usually very important. Most of our, or some of our lecturers usually also provide tutorial sessions. Okay, so we have very specific tutorial sessions which are provided for some of the courses which we offer both in the second year and in the third year and even in the master's course. So those tutorials are very important for you to build up, to top up the material which is usually covered in the lectures. But I consider attendance to class as very, very important as part of your development, as part of your knowledge building skills, which is very, very important.
Thank you very much.